Okay, so last week we looked at univariate data. So first we looked at describing what type of data we have, and then we took our categorical data and we were displaying them in either a bar chart, or we also looked at the two-way frequency tables. So displaying the data is one thing, but now we have to, as mathematicians, we have to tell people what does the data, or what does that graph tell us. So what we do is we look at the graphs and then we explain it to what it tells us. Okay, so here are the guidelines when we're describing. Now, when we say a distribution, because when we graph it, we're showing how the values, range over the categories or whatever. So that's called a distribution. So when you're just displaying it, that's what they mean. So when we're describing the distribution of a categorical variable, so remember we talked about modes of transport, I think we did a bar chart on, and we have to then, so we'll then say what we find of it. We looked at some of these things when we did do them, but we're going to have to write brief reports, and this gets important part of year 12, writing a report on the graph, okay? So what we want to do is we just briefly want to summarise the contents in which the data were collected, including the number of people. So we might say we surveyed the class of 28 and asked them what type of pet they had, okay? So that would be the starting of the report, yeah? And then we would state if there was a clear modal category. So that was the one that was the highest frequency. So say in my example, I said, so in class of 28, we asked what pet they had. The modal category was dog, with 10 students having a dog for a pet. Include relevant counts or other percentages. So then we might say it was then followed by a cat with 3, and then we just quote all the other stats. Now we don't say why, so we don't say why was it so high to have a dog. That's what other sciences and other people do. We just state the facts. So we can be very factual. We can just say dogs were the highest with this, then followed by cats. We just have to use the stats and say it, okay? So if there are a lot of categories, you don't have to mention them all. So say within the pets, if I collected all your pets, there might have been a whole heap, because people might have a rabbit, one person might have a lizard or something like that. So we just might comment on the most the first few top 3. And either counts or percentages can be used. So if we had a frequency table with just the counts, we'd maybe use the counts. If we've got percentages, we'll quote the percentages, all right? So let's have a look at this example. So you can see how we can get some of our information for the report. So if you look here, it says a group of 30 children were offered a choice of sandwich, salad, or pie. So for lunch. So there you can see there's that opening statement of our report. We're just saying how many people were surveyed. And if you remember last week, I said make sure we start getting used to when we read this. Remember, N means the total number of people surveyed or in the data. Just get a good habit of writing that above it. It will help you when you're doing year 12 questions in that as well, because sometimes you're looking through, maybe that's missing in the table and you can add that in. Okay, so, and their responses were collected and they've got the frequency table. So it says use the frequency table to report on the relative popularity of the 3 lunches, quoting appropriate frequencies. So if there was percentages there, they will say quoting appropriate percentages. In year 12, I'm just going to say it's most often percentages, and if the table isn't percentaged, you need to do that and make it and comment on it. So just be wary. Percentages are probably better. Okay, so and then we make it. So if you have a look, let's just look at our data first. So we know when we comment on it, we know first we have to say how many people were surveyed and what we did. We've got that in that opening statement there where they told us. Now we also need to look at the modal category. We'll have to comment on that. So looking at the table of values, what one's our mode? Which one was the most frequent, the most popular? Yeah, so pi, we're just going to say is the mode, or we might say modal category. They mean the same thing. So if you want to maybe put next to that modal category, in case they use either one of those words, you can use either one of those statements, that's okay. All right, so we've got that. And then who came next? We had the salad and then the sandwich. So that's pretty much all we need to know, and we can write the report. When you write the report, you must use stats, so I mean numbers, yeah? You can't just say it, put the numbers there. So you'll see in this example report, so remember you always have your books with you, so you could follow this example, but obviously change the scenario, yeah? So we've got it here. So we've got a group of 30 children were offered the choice of sandwich, salad, pie for lunch. Now, over here, we've found the modal category. So the most popular lunch choice was pie, chosen by 13. So they've put the stat there. So you can say, you know, even if you wrote the most popular was pie with 13 children picking it, that's fine. I'm not your English teacher. I'm looking for the stat and that you've commented on the mode, okay? And then remember we said we should follow with the rest. So then we had, then they said 10 children chose salad, and then they've just popped in the least popular, because there was only 3, was children, and there's a report done. It's not hard. No, don't need to waffle. Short, brief, to the point. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so let's have a look at this example here. It says a sample of 200 people were asked to comment on the statement, astrology has scientific truth, by selecting one of the options. Definitely, truly, probably not true, definitely not true, or don't know. So the data was summarised in the following frequency table and bar chart. And we know that this is categorical data and then it's ordinal. All right, so let's have a look. Now, they want us to write a report. So if I just go through like what we were talking about before. So we have to say how many people. So we're probably going to write, there was 200 people said whether scientific was a truth. That's all you probably need to write. You don't have to write all the options because we're going to comment on it. So I'm just getting in the practice of putting that. Okay, so if we have a look, here is our modal category, which was probably not true. And I'm going to look at probably not true, and I'm looking at the percentage. So that's what I'm going to write in my statement. And then we followed by the next two, which were, we've got these two, this one. So then we had second was probably true, and then we had, so we could go on. So let's have a look at this using writing the report, and just to show you where they're going. So a sample of 200 people were asked to respond whether Australia has scientific truth. So we've done that. Now they're talking about the modal category. Here's the thing. So the majority, you can say the most popular. If you don't like using those words, don't use them. If they're not in your language, I don't use them. That's why I don't use it. So maybe you might want to write the most popular. Respondents did not agree, with 37.5% responding they believe the statement was probably not true. So I reckon that's a little bit waffly, right? So I could just say, after I had this one, I'm going to write what I probably would have written. So a sample of 200 people were asked to respond to the statement. I probably said the most common response was, and I'll write probably not true, with 37.5%. And then I'd say the next bit, then I'd probably go followed by, what was it? Probably true, yeah, with 27%, and then probably not true. So we don't have to say what's going on. It's jumping around there a bit. So followed by, bless you, probably true with 27%, and then you could so on write the rest of the categories. Maybe then we might go with the last one with the least going. But